Hello, everyone. Welcome to another video of Workers Hammer. I am Vincent.
I'm Eibhlin. Hello.
And today we want to talk about one of the most important strike in the country, which has been going on for a year, or a little over a year, actually.
Yeah.
And which is quite important, which is the Birmingham bin strike. And we call this video The Truth About the Birmingham Bin Strike because there's a lot of lies that is being told about it. Lies in the press, in the media,
Yes.
slanders over those strikers who are really fighting a heroic battle against the Labour-run city council and against the Labour government, really.
Yes. One of the most significant class battles this country has seen for decades, honestly.
Yes. And also lies on the part of the left. The left, if you read the left press, a lot of what's been written about the strike is false, is distorted.
Yes.
We'll get to this a little later in the video.
They don't even address the question of why hasn't this strike escalated? Why hasn't there been a strategy to win?
Yeah.
So, but we'll come back to that.
So we want to tell the true story of the Birmingham bin workers, which are courageously fighting this battle against a lot of odds and are in a conflict which is really, I think, a snapshot of the state of the country in many, many different ways, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So Birmingham went bankrupt 2 years ago, more or less. We're not going to get into the whole background, the whole equality pay thing, but essentially went bankrupt, and the Tory government had appointed commissioners to run the city. The commissioners became more or less the dictators of the city, imposing cuts, really ransacking it, Swimming pools are being closed, libraries are being closed, all sorts of services are being closed while council tax are rising. And they went against the bin service to really try to smash the union there, destroy working conditions, turn it into a casual labor type situation, essentially. Yes. And this is really what has sparked this strike.
The commissioners, they are dictators. They pushed the council aside, but they decided to take on the bin workers, who are one of the most class-conscious, determined fighters for the union that this country has seen for a very long time. And, the commissioners are, of course, very determined as well.
Yeah. We've written in a few times now, we've written a few articles. Well, they're all in the description, but in a few of them, we've written that if only determination and courage was needed to win this strike, it would have been done long ago. These workers, and we've been to the picket lines multiple times, these workers show a really incredible class consciousness, courage, determination. They just renewed their strike yet again 2 days ago until September. They do not want to cave. They want to fight.
Yes, and it's true. If determination and courage would win this strike, it would have been won long ago.
Yes.
So now, but we have to examine the reasons why
exactly
determination and courage has proven to be not enough, and what are the actual problems?
Before going into all the ins and outs of the strike, let's just listen to a few voices from that strike, an interview you made with Stephen, as well as some other video clips. So let's just listen to this.
Okay, so we're here at the Birmingham bin strike. We're at the Atlas depot, and this is the mega picket. This is Stephen, the striker from Atlas Depot. Thank you for talking to us, Stephen.
No worries at all. Thank you for having me.
So what is it like having been on strike for so long? What is the mood like at the moment?
It shifts from time to time. We've been out here for about a year now. So, we've come too far for any of us to give up sort of thing. But the mood's pretty strong. Mega pickets and events like this do definitely help boost the morale. But we've come too far not to give in now, and especially having a Labour council. It's absolutely disgraceful what's going on.
Yes, and I suppose you think the union should stop funding the Labour Party?
Oh, most definitely. Because they don't stand for. Labour itself, it means to work. So if you're not gonna support people who are contributing towards the economy of the country and stuff like that, then what's the point of supporting them?
Yeah. And could you say a little bit for the people who watch this about the kind of determination? What makes the strikers so determined to stay out for so long? Like thinking back to the beginning, from the beginning until now.
I mean, money, at the end of the day, when you go to work, you fit your lifestyle around your way, so to have such a significant amount just to be dropped, £8,000 is no short amount of number. £600 a month literally equates to your rent money, your bills for the month, even your food groceries for the month. Everything's constantly on the rise with the cost of living crisis that's affecting all of us, so nobody can really afford to lose money.
It's absolutely an outrage. £8,000 and for the drivers as well. And
it's despicable. Why should we as employees have to pay for our employers' mistakes? I'm not the one that spent the £1 billion that did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. I'd be on the beach sipping a mojito or something. But
pina colada.
Yeah, there you go. Unfortunately, they make the workers pay for their mistakes, and that's not wrong. It's not right. That's why we're fighting, and that's why we should keep the fight going. And same way with everybody else that's striking this year. We've got the fire brigades union here, teachers. We've got so many different fights. So it is very important to stand up and fight for your rights.
And it must have been a great boost when the agency workers joined the strike. That was a help.
Most definitely. If you think about it, historically, agency have never joined the picket line because they weren't allowed to. But I suppose the agency at the Birmingham City Council have felt like they've been backed into a corner and they've had no choice but to join the picket line.
Yeah. Would you say anything to the rest of the trade union movement in Birmingham should really come out and join the strikers? I think.
Come and show your solidarity. Even if you don't understand what's going, come down, have the conversation. At the end of the day, there's no harm in having a conversation, and then also you find out you might find something out, or we might be able to gain something from the conversation to help strengthen our cause. So definitely solidarity does definitely go a long way.
Okay, well, thank you so much. And the bin strikers have really shown determination that's lacking in the rest of the country. So thank you very much, Stephen, and good luck with your strike.
Thank you.
We're not asking for any more money. We're not asking for money. People think that we're asking for money. We're not. We just want to keep the wages that we're on now. That is all we're asking for.
My rent has gone up by £30. My council tax has gone up by £15. We're in a cost of living crisis. Everything's going up, and suddenly I'm back to where I was 7-8 years ago. They are threatening to take 25% of my wage. We already agreed to a £1,200 loss, and now the council have taken £6,200 off me. So I've lost near enough £8,000, and I'm a father of 5. I've got at least 20 years left in this job. So that's £144,000 in potential earnings that I've lost, gone.
And I'm not being funny. I will never, ever, ever vote Labour again. Ever will I vote Labour again. All they have done, as you're seeing on the news, they've lied and lied. They weren't going to put the council tax up. They put the council tax up. They was going to give the old age pension eating allowance. They've took the eating allowance off them. The closing libraries, the closing swimming pools. For them to take a pay rise, take money off us. And we're the working people, and they're sitting in the warm. We're out in the rain, the snow, the wind. We've got to carry on picking the bins up. We've got to carry on picking the bins up when we're soaking wet. We can't go in there and, I'll tell you what, I'll get drawn up. We can't do that. We've just got to carry on. But they can sit in their office, drinking tea, having bacon sandwiches or whatever they eat, and we can't.
Most of the people they seem to be attacking are the people that have been here 15, 20 years. They want people fresh out of college. It'll be like working at like McDonald's do and employing students. That's what I think they want, because they can just hire and fire them as they want. Our feeling is we're the first, we won't be the last. If they can do this to us, they will do it to anyone.
So these strikers really determined, as we can see, really fighting for their basic livelihood, and this is why they're so keen on continuing the fight. So I think to understand why this strike has been going on for a year, and what are its prospects, I think we should go through the various stages of this struggle. As I say, we were on the picket lines multiple times. We've produced articles at different junctures of it. So I think to give a broad picture to our audience, let's just walk through a little bit this strike. It it opens up in January 2025,
Yes.
where the commissioners launch their first attack. The bin workers go on a
2 days a week strike.
2 days a week strike, which escalates into an all-out strike in March.
On March 11th.
Yes. And describe a bit the situation in March when the full-on strike started. What was a bit the situation?
Well, when the strike began, rubbish was piling up on the streets. The commissioners and the council were really on the back foot because the bin workers actually have a lot of power. And so there was a lot of hysteria in the press and denunciations of the bin strikers, blaming them for rats running through the city and all the rest of it. So in our very first leaflet, we said, drive the rats out of Birmingham, get rid of the commissioners. But the council was very much on the back foot to begin with.
Rubbish was piling up. The Labour government sent military advisors in Birmingham to try to manage this crisis, which was declared a major incident.
Thanks to Angela Rayner, that friend of the working class.
Yes, of course, that so-called trade unionist.
Backed by Ayub Khan,
the
MP who's now in
your party. Yes, Ayub Khan had offered his help to coordinate the military advisors to break the Birmingham strike.
Yes.
He has since then kind of, apologized and trying to show his support. But initially he was calling openly to break the strike with the use of the military.
Yes.
And at the same time, the council was sort of scrambling to come up with a response, trying to find agency workers to break the strike. With not necessarily a lot of success at first. So this was really a time where the union had the advantage.
Yes, the union did have the advantage.
Yes.
But what the union didn't have was a battle plan to really adequately take on this battle and defeat the commissioner.
Yes. Maybe describe a bit how did the union went into this fight?
The union went into this fight, I think, with the playbook that they've been using for decades in Britain, where an attack is launched on the workers, as it was here, and they plead for negotiation. And normally speaking, especially with the council, a Labour council, it would give the union leaders a crumb, a bone to throw to the workers. They would come back and say, here's an offer. It's the best we can get. But it's not as bad as was originally offered. And they would convince the workers to accept it. Mm-hmm. And this doesn't work at all in the Birmingham bin strike. The commissioners are out for an absolute defeat. They already prepared with, agency workers, some of their own trucks, and they intend to run the refuse collection of the city council, totally non-union labor, and with a parallel scab operation.
I think we see this a lot. This sort of routinist playbook. Pay negotiation come, we'll negotiate, maybe do a few days of strike. They'll throw us a bone. And then we'll all go back and life goes on.
Yesterday's men playing with yesterday's playbook.
Exactly.
Where their role is simply to broker a deal that is maybe not quite as bad as what the management had offered in the first place.
A bit like managed decline in a certain
Managed
sense.
decline is exactly right. Actually.
But what changed here was that you had, as you say, commissioners who were dead set on destroying the union and change entirely.
They do not want compromise. They're not going to compromise with the unions. They have no time for these union leaders, to offer them something which will allow them to save face. So on the one hand, you have the courage and determination of the bin strikers who can hold the city to ransom. And on the other hand, the determination of the commissioners to, they're going to win. So there's no role for the union leadership.
Well, the union leadership are sort of stuck between these two forces. Already at the quite early days of the strike, they realize workers are really determined. Commissioners are really determined. This is a clash. And, either of those two forces must prevail. And the union leaders are sort of stuck in between those two forces.
And a
rock and a hard place. And they really went into the strike without a real winning strategy, as you say. So quickly, when they go on all-out strike in March, they don't really much have more cards to play if you respect the whole framework of anti-trade union laws, of legislation, of regulation, which really choked the class struggle in Britain. If you respect that framework, there's not much more they can do,
No.
And so they start this campaign of where's Cotton, for example. Cotton is the leader of the Birmingham Council.
Yes.
And saying, oh, where's Cotton? Because we want to negotiate with him and he doesn't want to show up to negotiation.
Yes.
Sort of. And the problem with this was that everybody knew, including the bin workers, that those who are in charge of the city is not the council. It's not Cotton. It was the commissioners.
The council was reduced to nothing. So
Yes.
this was just a lot of noise from the union leadership, but it was absolutely impotent as a strategy. And it was clear, they did not have a strategy to win.
Mm-hmm.
They did not have a strategy to escalate.
Yeah.
And so this became just sort of a gimmick.
Yeah. So I think they did, they tried to counter also the right-wing press, which were trying to slander those strikers. They publicized their case. By the way, we haven't talked so much about the specifics, but as one of the workers was mentioning, the bin workers are facing £8,000 of pay cut. That's a third of the salary for many of them. You can't feed a family, you can't keep your house with this. And so they did push back a bit on this, but they didn't have another card than just pleading for negotiations.
Yeah.
And the commissioners were not interested, obviously.
Yeah.
So they're playing by the old rules, and I think quickly by April, May, we get into a battle of attrition. Two sides, and it's who's going to last longer, essentially. So we started to go on the picket lines more and more during that time. Maybe in these early days, you can give a picture a bit of what was the mood on the picket line. What were strikers saying?
The mood on the picket line was so defiant. They were so energized, so angry. They couldn't stop talking about what their demands were, how just their demands were, denouncing the Labour government, the Labour Council, and the union for its ties to Labour. So, from one of the first things you would hear on the picket line was that the union should stop the funding to Labour, pull the plug on the funding to Labour, because they understood that as long as the union leaders kept the union tied to Labour, this would, Labour is the enemy. So this would actually hamstring them in their strike. And they had lots to say about what should happen among other unions, lots of complaints about, unison. Most members of most of the bin strikers are in Unite. Some are in Unison and all that.
Unite, which is the biggest donor to the Labour Party, I think.
Biggest donor to the Labour Party. So, yes. As regards to union leaders, the mood at the time was that they were weak and not up to the job from very early on. But the strikers were very determined.
Actually, some of the strikers themselves were saying that the union leaders are sort of playing with the old playbook,
Yes.
And Kassab was the sort of head of Unite in Birmingham. And there was already a lot of criticism and a lot of anger at funding of Labour. And also general anger about how, I remember one of the workers talking about we live in a uni-party state.
Yes.
And that both parties are two cheeks of the same arse.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, the language was very colorful.
Yeah.
But, it's true. There was anger about officials like Oni Kassab for playing by the rules, because the strikers were trying to find every which way they could to stop the wagons from coming out. They were facing the Public Order Act, arrest under the Public Order Act, the police, and so on. And so they came up with a number of different schemes from quite early on, but the union leadership was always there, and Oni Kassab, to chill things out and play by the rules and don't go beyond the rules. So they thought the union leaders were no match for the commissioners.
Yeah. Because early on the strike, the council obviously started to recruit a lot of agency workers to break the strike. And the strikers kept finding new ways to try to stop those wagons to go out, right?
Yes. Yeah, they did slow walking in front of the wagons as they were coming out of the depot. And so they didn't actually stop them technically, but they slowed them down so that you have a long line of wagons trying to leave the depot, held up for hours. Another example was at Lifford Lane. There was a court injunction to prevent picketing, so they figured out exactly where the which area of ground the court injunction covered, and they would let the wagons go out past that area, and then they parked the cars in such a way that they had to go down a particular road, and down that road the court injunction didn't apply, so they could stop them there. It just shows the courage and determination, the creativity that they had to stop this operation.
And so the union keeps appealing for negotiation. That's sort of the only thing they can do. And at some point, the council finally decides that they will try to negotiate. But what is the trick that comes with this?
Oh, yes. So the first thing they put on the negotiating table, even before the negotiations began, they said that not only the original, that the £8,000 a year pay cut would apply not only to the loaders that were already targeted, but now to the drivers as well. And so this is their negotiating strategy. So, they escalated. They put it to the union leaders, and the union leaders absolutely refused to escalate. They just carried on as before.
Yeah. So they opened negotiations, but they were like, we're extending this attack that we've already made on a huge part of the workforce, this £8,000 pay cut. But now we're going to extend it to drivers as well. Now we can negotiate how much do we extend it. So that was essentially the negotiation that the union was offered, honestly. And again, it showed like the union was lacking a bit the cards, because obviously this was unacceptable.
If you want negotiations, you should negotiate from a position of strength. You should go in with, some cards to play, like you're going to escalate the strike. We've appealed to all of the unions in Birmingham, and they are all going to come out on strike, which they would never think of.
We'll get into what strategy should be done, but the problem they had is by April, May, or whatever, there's already a scab operation that's quite well developed with agency workers, with also refused workers from other council coming in to shore up. So it's not great. There's still a lot of rubbish, but there's not anymore those piles of rubbish that had made the news back in March.
And parts of the city centre were clean and so on. So So by now the union was on the back foot, and the council had gained a lot of ground.
But this sort of battle of attrition continues. Lorries are still being stopped with this creativity we talked about. And so by July, what happens is that the council even steps up even more the attack, and basically puts out that all bin workers have to accept this pay cut or face the sack.
Yes, exactly. Because the commissioners, they cannot tolerate any effective action by the union, so they escalate again. They said, everybody, accept the new conditions or you're out of a job.
And this happens at the same time as the Unite policy conference.
There's
sort of the national conference of the union. And Sharon Graham, the leader of Unite, receives a text about this, like learns about this attack at the same time as everyone else. And then sorts of went into a big, fiery speech, angry speech. This is when they put forward to expel Angela Rayner from the union. And there's a motion that's put forward at the Unite Policy Conference to reconsider at some point the relationship of Unite with the Labour Party.
I'm requesting an emergency motion sending our full solidarity from this conference to our comrades, and to give an absolute condemnation of the Labour Council, the Labour Government, the Labour Party, Angela Rayner and John Clark. Members are being sacked for fighting back against an £8,000 pay decrease imposed by a party that we are affiliated to. Conference, if this news that has come out today is correct, this union must seriously assess its relationship with the Labour Party.
Actually, reports are slightly different to that, but don't worry about it. We'll still go with, I hope, the emergency motion on it. What Birmingham Council have actually said today is that the money that's on the table and the deal that was done at ACAS, they can't honour it because the commissioners won't allow them to honour it. i.e. the government commissioners, and what their lies, exactly, total load of rubbish, and what they're saying is that if workers don't want to accept the new contracts, they'll go through consultation for redundancy, which they were doing actually right at the beginning of this process, or take the new contracts. Now, the thing for us about this is that this is fire and rehire in any other name, under a Labour government. We're saying that today in the press. I've just met, sorry to not be in here for a moment, but I've just met the Birmingham bin reps outside. They're going to be addressing you tomorrow morning. And I have said to them, they have our 100% support. We're calling a government meeting on Friday after conference to ask what the hell are they doing. And they will have the full support of this union. But this is a real example where you have a Labour government in power, a Labour council, we get a deal that the workers are happy with, and commissioners who are getting £1,200 a day say that Birmingham can't afford it because of the debt they're in, because of austerity and other things, making everyday people pay. So absolutely, I hope the emergency motion is passed. And let me tell you, we are going to do everything in our power to make sure these workers do not pay the price. They've got every single part of support from me, and I know from this conference. Thank you very much.
You know, I think the Socialist Party was instrumental in putting that forward.
You seem a little bit skeptical about that.
Well,
the way you described it.
The thing is that it's all talk, right? It makes it's a big noise. There was a big angry speech. You know, Sharon Graham can do angry speeches.
Oh, she was very fiery, yes.
Yes. But in terms of concrete action, again, on the strike is not one at the Unite Policy Conference. It's not one with speech. It is one on the streets of Birmingham. This is where it is won.
Yes.
What is being done after that clear escalation from the council? This is what we call like fire and rehire, essentially. We fire you and you come back only under those
on our terms and conditions, and you accept it, or not.
So this is a red line that's being drawn here.
Yes. Now, the very next morning after that, we were on the picket lines again, and because of the threat to the entire workforce, take it or leave it, we expected the mood to be very downbeat on the picket line, and we were quite surprised that it wasn't. It was different. It was much more upbeat than we expected. And the reason for that was at the depot we went to on the day, which was Lifford Lane.
Yeah.
One of the delegates to the Unite Union conference was there. He organized a huddle with the strikers, allowed us to attend, and the mood was upbeat precisely because of what came out of the Unite conference. They thought that now, the strikers thought that now the union had changed. Now the union was actually going to fight.
Yeah.
So they were very upbeat because of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So sort of the criticism we have heard at the beginning of the strike receded a little bit.
Yes.
Out of hope.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's the first time I heard a good word about Sharon Graham on the picket line at the Birmingham bin strike. They said that was good. They were hopeful.
Yeah. However, after that big noise made the news a little bit, things kind of came back to normal because nothing really changed in the same battle of attrition, and no clear change of direction from the union.
No.
So maybe we can talk now a little bit. What did we push when we went to those picket lines? What did we we had leaflets. What did we said to those strikers essentially?
We talked about what strategy is needed to win. We put out several leaflets. In the first one, we talked about how it's the commissioners that are actually in charge. The council has been pushed aside, and the leadership needs a strategy to win. Mm-hmm. After that, we listened to what they said on the picket lines and what was happening and not happening, and we reflected that in our second leaflet, which was extremely important. The key thing we said was the strikers need to take matters into their own hands.
Yes.
We demanded simple things like a union, to organize union meetings where they can hold the union leadership to account.
Yeah.
that they need to appeal to agency workers to join the strike, make clear that it is in their interest to join the strike, because the attack is on the whole city of Birmingham.
Yeah.
Everyone knew this. So everyone will be affected by the cuts in services, job cuts, and so on. And we insisted that there needed to be an appeal to other unions in Birmingham to fight in their own interests against the commissioners. So we said things like organize delegations of strikers to go to other unions working for the city council, even for Unite in the buses and so on, and organize, demand from them some solid strike action in their own interest as well. And we knew that the union leaders were, existing union leaders were a barrier to doing this. So, we often made the point, if the existing union leaders are not prepared to do what's necessary to win the strike, they should stand aside and let others come forward who will.
What was necessary, like I remember talking to a striker, suggested a tactic that they should pick up the rubbish in council estate, poor working class areas, and bring them to in front of the town hall.
Yes,
and just do this regularly.
Dump it there.
But more broadly, the point we really made is this needs to be turned from a sort of sectoral dispute into like a citywide struggle against the commissioner. Everybody is under the gun of the commissioners. All the population, everything that was a little bit good in Birmingham is being shut down because of them. There would be a massive popular support, and you needed a leadership of the strike which would be able to understand the need to connect that struggle of the bin workers to that citywide struggle. And also, the commissioners were tearing up the rule book. So you needed a leadership in the union, you still do, that will also tear up the rule book.
Yes, will not play by
Why play by the old rules when the other side is just tearing them up?
Yes.
And take matters into your own hand. However, I think that was a bit difficult sometimes. What was the reception for this?
The reception to that was strikers did not object at all. They understood perfectly well this is a battle for the whole of the Birmingham labor movement, and that it would be great to have solidarity from the other unions and so on. But I can remember clearly these guys reading this leaflet carefully and saying, you're telling us that we have to take on not just the Labour government in London, the Labour Council in Birmingham, but our own union leaders as well. Yes, that's right. Yeah. That's correct. That's what you have to do. And this they found very daunting.
Yeah.
And yes, it is daunting, but it is what was needed.
Yeah. And we established link with some strikers, but they knew this last step, which was really the last step to really form a committee, put these demands, wage a fight inside the union. That was what was needed, and what is still needed, actually. Wage a struggle inside the union over the strategy.
Yeah.
That last step was more difficult for some of them.
It was very difficult for some of them. They didn't feel that they were up to that task. They didn't say it wasn't what was needed,
No.
And they were concerned also about, we'd given the example of Salty Gate in the 1970s in Birmingham, where Arthur Scargill brought a delegation of Yorkshire miners to a picket line in Birmingham at Salty Gate. And of course, they shut it down in one day because of the power of the Yorkshire miners. But what won the battle was when Scargill told them to organize union meetings of every union in the city, and appealed to every union in the city to come out on a particular day and shut that thing down. Now, strikers, bin strikers, some of them knew from the older generation about how that battle was won. It's a famous battle, Salty Gate. But they also would say the labor movement today is not what it was back then. There is a lot of demoralization, which is true. But what we were saying was what was necessary. It just seemed too much.
It's true that the labor movement is not the same. It's true. Yes. We have no illusions about that. But from my understanding, no serious effort were made by the Unite leadership to really go beyond what is imposed by the choking rules in order to make this a citywide strike, No serious attempt.
And not only that, they didn't have union meetings where someone could raise this point.
Well, yeah.
You know, the strikers themselves, who didn't feel they were up to the task, were perfectly willing to ask their own union leaders to do it, because that's actually where you start from. Here's what's needed. You know, you're our elected representatives. Are you going to do this? If you're not, stand aside. But they didn't even get the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. So this is what we argued on the pickets with strikers.
Yes.
So we went to the picket lines, you know, when there was just regular strike days. We also participated in what is called the mega pickets.
Yes.
The mega pickets were like, you know, events organized by different left groups, different other unions.
Yes.
You know, once every 2 months or something like that, or maybe a bit
Well, there
more
have been
spread out.
3 altogether.
Okay, only 3.
Yes.
Okay.
And
So let's talk a bit about those mega pickets, because they are the moment where other unions are coming, right? Like what we're talking about, going to other unions, right?
Yeah.
The mega pickets, there are other trade unionists who come, left groups who comes, general
express
public
solidarity.
come,
Yes.
which they do block also wagon. So maybe we can talk a little bit about the role of the mega pickets and
Yes.
how they have been.
Yes.
And how they were received by workers.
Yes, and how the mood changed from the first mega picket until the end. Because in the first mega picket happened, it was quite well attended. You know, a lot of other, as you mentioned, trade union leaders came, expressed support and solidarity and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But when you spoke to strikers thought, well, this is nice. It's nice that people solidarize with us. And that, but it's going to make zero impact to the outcome of our strike. So they thought, you know, okay, it's nice. By the second mega picket,
which was later in the summer,
the mood had changed, because now this expression of solidarity of the mega picket, which didn't mobilize, no one was on strike for the mega picket. Let's be clear. People who are off work, union full-timers, leftists.
It's only the bin workers that are on strike.
Only the bin workers that are on strike. By now, the mood of the bin workers was that this is all we're going to get from the rest of the labor movement. So they felt like, yes, this is the only form of solidarity that we can expect. And the best we can do is try to use these protests, the mega pickets, to stop the wagons on that day, because we have the numbers there. So this became like a kind of a lifeline, and it's a very thin reed, but this became kind of seen as kind of a lifeline.
I think that's the issue, because by the time of the second mega picket versus the first, the strikers, the picket lines have become so boxed in into injunctions, laws, the police is there. They cannot stop the operations of SCAB, essentially. And the mega picket, what it does is, at least it, because of its sheer number, it's able to block wagons. So workers start to see this as like sort of the only way to stop SCAB operation for one day.
Yes.
You know,
for one day. And also, if people have come from outside, people come from London and from, different parts of the country to the mega pickets. So they can help stop the wagons from coming out. And, you know, this is, if one of them gets arrested or something, it's not so much of a risk to the strikers. But, you know, the commissioners don't tolerate even that.
Yeah. But just lastly on the mega pickets, like, of course it's good. Of course we're for them. We participated in them. They're good. Excellent. However, the problems a bit is that the mega pickets became sort of a substitute for really fighting for a different strategy for the strike. And they became quite of this photo op occasion, this sort of celebration, and politicians come, you know, Zach Polanski was at the last one, you know, Jeremy Corbyn was at the previous one.
Yeah,
and,
Sarah Sultan has been at all of them. Yes.
All left group go there and they do their photo with their banner and with the strikers and the class struggle. But it really hides the reality that, like, look, there's a massive SCAB operation. This is a battle of attrition where, you know, the union is slowly, I think, losing the initiative, the momentum. And, you know, this is a celebration, and, you know, we don't have to talk about these.
It's actually one aspect of it is that the mega picket is a cover up of how dire the situation is in the labor movement, and of the betrayals of the union leaders in refusing to escalate it, and also of the role of the left in not doing anything to mobilize their own supporters in unions to take some strike action.
Yeah.
So it's very much a two-edged sword.
Yeah.
The mega picket. I think it makes it look, it prettifies the picture, honestly, of where the strikers are at.
Right. So as the autumn sets in, we're still in this battle of attrition, still cat and mouse game around the wagons. The scab operation is constantly increasing. You know, rubbish is being picked up, and however, one kind of important turning point is in November. Agency workers go on strike, which is quite significant, which is one of the things we had demanded, essentially. So one of the main company that does the scab operation, honestly.
One of the agencies,
their workers choose to join the picket line, facing threat and abuse and by their employers.
And not for the first time. This gives a real shot in the arm to the strikers and could become a real turning point. It could have been a springboard to change the strategy and to actually turn things around. And it's not the first one. When the drivers came out on strike earlier, the exact same thing happened. There was a real boost to the morale and to the strength of the strike, honestly. But again,
it isn't followed up by a change in strategy by the union.
Union leadership will not change the game plan. They stick to the same game plan, even as the company escalates, and even in spite of more courage and determination on the part of the strikers. Because, in fact, how do the agency workers come out on strike? It's because, as far as possible, the strikers talk to them on the picket lines every day. We saw it happening.
Yes.
We spoke to people who'd been agency workers and who decided to come out on strike because they were convinced by pickets
that they didn't want it to break the strike. You know, they could see that they were on the wrong side and switch sides.
So it was possible, you know.
I think, this episode of the agency worker really shows it's again one of those steps that is not used properly. There was, as you mentioned, the driver joining the strike, the Unite Policy Conference when the strike was again in the media and there was a momentum behind it. And this agency, this was really the time to then declared war, dropped the gauntlet, tore up the rule book, you know, really appeal to the rest of the labor movement of Birmingham, go to the union, say, this is a strike, not for just our salary. This is a strike for Birmingham. This is a strike to save our city from those dictator commissioners who are destroying it.
And also to save these jobs for the next generation. You know, this like the sons and daughters of the bin strikers, they need jobs as well. And people will talk about that in the picket line.
But no, the sort of momentum was sort of let go. And what the council did is that the particular agency that went on strike, they just found another one. Another agency provided scab labor, and they continued expanding their operation. So this was like November, December. Where are we now, essentially? So you were at the third mega picket, which was on 31st of January.
31st of January.
Tell us a bit about that.
So this one was more, it was smaller. It was spread across all three depots. And the mood was very resigned, you know, very downbeat, in fact, because first of all, a lot of drivers have taken voluntary redundancy. There was one striker whom we've spoken to from the very beginning, who's like you know, he personified everything that's best about the trade union movement in this country. He was a driver. He was on the picket lines before the drivers were attacked and before the drivers were called out on strike. He was a union militant, and you know, he spoke with tears in his eyes about what the strike meant for him and how important it was, how important the union was to him. And so he was heartbroken to explain that he had taken redundancy before the end of the strike. And we were told that maybe 200 people had taken voluntary redundancy, which those were mostly the older workers, which are also the ones who happen to have the most history in the union and most class consciousness. So that's something that is squandered. But the younger strikers, they don't even have that choice. And, you know, who can afford to take an £8,000 a year.
Yeah, it's
pay
fight
cut.
or starve, like for them.
Fight or starve.
Yes.
Exactly.
So the council has really been pressuring the union pressuring the union for voluntary redundancy. Yeah.
Yes.
That's been one of the strategy of attrition, of really trying to thin out the number of union people.
But one thing I forgot to mention is that the recent mega picket did actually manage to stop some wagons. So they don't just do speeches and so on. First, they go and try to stop some wagons. And once again, they were effective in doing that. But even so, that has not happened for months. But even that is too much for the commissioners. Yeah. So the commissioners have now demanded a court injunction, which they will get, to stop the mega pickets from stopping the wagons from coming out. Like the commissioners will stop at nothing.
Yeah,
they want total defeat of the union. They want to block absolutely every attempt that the strikers will make to try and be effective. You know, they're just ruthless.
Yeah. And what I can see is that the council essentially, from its scab operation, is setting up an entire permanent and parallel collection service, essentially.
Oh, yes.
This is what they're gearing up for the summer.
Yes.
And what they want is just to run the entire collection system parallel to those on strikes, which will really hurt even more the strikers and reduce really their leverage.
Yes,
essentially.
They want to use. Yes, they have a parallel system.
Yeah.
They have scab trucks. They have agency workers, and they want to get rid of a unionized workforce completely. Yeah. This workforce, by the way, had a strike which was quite effective in 2017. Another reason for them to be targeted. Not only they can hold the whole city to ransom if they stop the bin collection, but their strike in 2017 was actually fairly successful. So that's another reason they were in the crosshairs of the commissioners.
But I think this situation, almost a year, there's a lesson in power here, in the sense that sometimes on the left we hear this thing, one more day, one day stronger, you just can go on and on and on and on. And the history of the labor movement shows, I'm thinking of the miners' strike, obviously that's a totally different scale, but a war of attrition is never a really good situation for the labor movement because you're facing the state, essentially. So you need to be able to really hit where the state is as it's much weaker and escalate and go on the offensive. And there's really a lesson to how those union leaders really just let different opportunities to make this escalation possible. And really because if you refuse to seize those opportunities, you come out weaker out of it. It's not just like, we didn't take it, we'll take it later. There's a cost for this. And slowly you can see, how the workforce is getting thinner and thinner, and how the council is getting more and more and more confidence in its offensive. It does not look good. However, we've written multiple times in our leaflets.
It's late, but it's not too late.
But it's not too late to turn the situation around. Yeah. I think it's becoming more difficult, but we are still optimistic that it can happen. That if workers really organize themselves and take this strike out of the hand of Kassab and Sharon Graham, they can make headways. But it's difficult
because they keep finding opportunities to turn things around keep cropping up. And it's thanks to the initiative of the strikers themselves. Like that's how the agency workers came out. Those situations will continue to happen. But the union and the strikers are in a much weaker position now than they were at the start of the strike. And that we have to be truthful about that. And if it continues as a war of attrition with no escalation and no turnaround, then they will be defeated. I think we have to say that in order to motivate the urgency of actually,
changing
something
course.
Has to change.
Yeah. One thing I want to address before we move to the left is how the strike is sowing the seeds for reform.
Yes. Oh yes.
I think
I have
Oni,
a quote
Kassab
here from Oni Kassab.
Yeah.
He is the Unite's regional officer, and this was in an interview. He said that the city council's handling of the dispute is causing a political backlash, and what the city council has done is they have sown the seeds for Reform UK, he said. And he added that that's not Unite's doing. Well, I think it certainly has sown the seeds for Reform UK.
Of course.
Strikers told us in no uncertain terms on the picket lines from quite early on that, I mean, they hate Labour so much. They are going to vote for reform. They support reform and so on.
Multiple workers, even from the beginning, were pro-reform and pro-forage. And, I've had arguments with this.
Yes. And of course, it's the city council's fault and the commissioner's fault for attacking the working class. Yes,
and
that
Starmer,
is true. But I'm sorry, One, the Unite leadership is not blameless in this regard. And in fact, continuing the links to Labour and continuing with this absolutely impotent strategy, unable to stand up for workers when they're under attack and defend their livelihoods and mount a real struggle.
Yeah.
That's what drives workers to reform.
Yeah. It reinforces the view, that the unions are inseparable from the Labour Party.
Yes, and that they're useless.
And that the unions are, that when they fight, you don't win.
Yeah.
So there is, yes, it's the council, yes, it's the government, but there is a point also for the union leadership. It reinforces the view among a lot of workers that the unions are good for nothing.
Yeah, and that, as you say, if you fight, you lose.
Yeah.
That's the lesson of looking at the Birmingham bin strike. For a lot of people who are more skeptical, don't have as much union consciousness, and have never seen anybody try to wage a battle in order to win a strike.
So we're still fighting to turn it around, but we really don't want this to be the lesson. But if it stays on this course, it unfortunately will be.
Yeah.
And I have, like, today in the Financial Times, I was very surprised to see a letter. Sharon Graham wrote a letter about the Labour Party has become devoid of purpose. The Financial Times, and it goes on about how the Labour Party is no good and how they're not doing anything for working people, and how if they were asked to affiliate today, they would say no, thank you. But then she says, next year, Unite's conference will consider our current affiliation to the Labour Party. The mood music right now is to depart. The question being asked are, what is Labour for and who is it for? So in 2027, I don't know when, but in 2027, a Unite conference will consider maybe we should not be giving a ton of money to Keir Starmer while he's shafting the entire working class. Like, this is the sort of thing that that infuriates workers.
This is called gradualism, gradually, bit by bit, inch by inch, year by year, we will take a small step. Meanwhile, the commissioners come, with a big hammer to smash the union, to really reorganize the whole city of Birmingham so that the poor are going to eat it.
Yeah.
And, the services are going to be absolutely decimated. And
it's so ridiculous.
Like,
we don't think just the money to Labour is enough to solve this strike. However, let's say at the Unite Policy Conference last year, when they heard in the middle of the conference that all the bin workers were sacked, they could have tried and fight to pass a motion, not a penny more, period, there. That would have probably done more to change the stance of the council and the Labour Party.
Would have done something. And would have done
more, than just noise followed with no action.
Would have done something to get the support of their own members also.
Yeah. So if we conclude maybe with the last point I'd like to discuss is the left. So we've titled this "The Truth About the Birmingham Bin Strike," and part of it is directed at the socialist movement, which I think have played quite a despicable role in the strike.
Yes.
Really, if you read any article from the Socialist Party, Socialist Workers' Party, the Revolutionary Communist Party, the most of these groups, they've written only like glowing pieces celebrating the bin strikers. Okay, fine, we also celebrate them, but totally silent or barely, about the policy of the Unite leadership, about what needs to be done and what isn't being done, and explaining why. The role of socialists really in this strike isn't just to celebrate the strike. It is to give an orientation as to what needs to be done and explain to workers why it isn't the case. Why are we in this situation? And I was just looking from the last mega picket, the 31st of January one you went to, and the socialist worker, like Birmingham mega picket shows the power of the people. And the Socialist Party, the Brumbin's mega picket against Tories in red ties, says trade union is descending on Birmingham for the mega picket. It's all glowing. It's how this is great. The strike is solid. Everything's good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, honestly, well, lying. I'm sorry. Like this is a lie.
That's right.
You know?
It totally prettifies the picture
Mhm.
because, in fact, members of the socialist groups, they go to the picket lines and they express their solidarity and so on. But the role of the socialist left is not to be cheerleaders in a dispute. What's been very obvious is that they did not see themselves playing any role in shaping the outcome of the strike. They saw no role for themselves as trying to encourage a victory or trying to even insist how to win a victory. And so what's the reason for that?
Yeah.
The reason is because they will not mount an opposition to Sharon Graham within the Unite bureaucracy. There is a need to build, a militant opposition within the union that will take on the Sharon Graham leadership, Oni Kassab, and so on. Yeah.
I think that's really key. And I think this is, if we talk a little more about the Socialist Party, because they have particular influence in that strike.
Yes, they do.
Oni Kassab is he was a Tusk
He's
candidate.
associated with them, yeah.
Associated with them in some way. They are there quite a lot. And they have some weight in Unite.
Yes.
But the Socialist Party, rather than using its weight to build an opposition to Sharon Graham in the way she's conducted the strike, the Socialist Party is using its weight to support Sharon Graham.
Yes.
They explicitly support and campaign for her, think she's a good leader, more or less, and that, it's the job of socialists is just to support them.
Yes.
Which is really a betrayal when you look at what this strike was happening in Birmingham.
Yes.
And what those workers will conclude from the policies of Unite.
Yeah.
Frankly, it's quite, and they've constantly covered up for her.
Exactly.
Like this motion to reconsider the ties to labor, I believe was introduced in part by Socialist Party members,
Yes, it was.
which is all well and fine, but like you have to understand that this sort of motion, which doesn't commit Unite to anything, it's only, we will consider, as she wrote in the Financial Times, in 2 years' time or something, maybe, it provides her a useful cover. It's not a challenge to her. She can, let the SP do their thing while continuing on the same course. And this is really wrong.
Yes, it was really a face-saving exercise for Sharon Graham because she was really caught on the hop when the commissioners escalated while the Unite conference was going on.
Yeah.
And to give the appearance of having a militant response, the Socialist Party's motion about cutting off the funding served her to save face, but did nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing to change the outcome.
I think what the Birmingham bin strike shows, and I hope that's a lesson the left will draw, but I'm not sure. But anyway, I hope we can help with this.
Yeah.
What this strike shows is that the advancement of the labor movement in this country requires a struggle against those who are currently leading it.
Exactly.
The unions have become quite hollowed out. People at the top of them are quite privileged bureaucrats who make good salaries, who have a stake in the status quo.
Very good salaries.
Yes. Who do not want to rock the boat.
No.
Who have been used to work in a certain, mold from the Blairite era, the sort of old playbook we were talking about, don't want to get out of it, are more concerned about rocking the boat than really going to the bat for their members. And I think this strike shows that you need a fight in the unions to win.
You're absolutely right. And in fact, if we go back to what you said early on, what the union leaders see themselves doing is managing decline. And they have managed, with this strategy, they have managed the decline of the labor movement and the hollowing out of the unions. And also, they're responsible for such a level of demoralization that some of the very basic things about how to win a strike that are pretty obvious, they just don't occur to people anymore.
Yeah.
And the left is part of the problem.
Yeah.
The organized left groups.
Indeed. So it's really key that this strike win in Birmingham because, so Birmingham is bankrupt, but actually there's a lot of council up and down the country that are also bankrupt.
Yes.
Many of them are looking at what's happening in Birmingham.
Yes.
A lot of the council are like, maybe we can do the same to our union.
Yeah.
So if the Birmingham bin strikers are defeated, the lesson that will be drawn up and down the country is that for council is that we can break our unions as well. And for workers, it's going to be that, well, we can't really fight it, because look at what they tried in Birmingham and they failed.
Yeah.
So it's so key that they win, that there's been a win. But for this, there needs to be a different strategy, and the socialist left has to wake up to this and use their influence to turn things around.
And if I might add, in the context of the upcoming by-election, in Manchester, like where the left is all obsessed about how to, that the way to defeat Farage and the far right is to hide behind the Greens and hope that the Green, which is in itself hopeless. But if you want to really undercut the support for Farage and the far right in this country, try winning some strikes. Try, supporting the working class in struggle with a strategy to win. That's how you will. That would do an enormous amount to undercut Farage and Reform UK.
Yeah, the bin workers might be collecting recycling. They'll never look to the Greens to advance their interests. The Green Party has no traction whatsoever among bin workers, just among the working class more generally, which is why it's also a false strategy to look at Polanski, really.
Yes. Honestly.
Yes. So we hope this video can be a bit of a wake-up call for those on the left who looked at it.
Defeat is not inevitable in this strike. We tried to
all.
lay out all of the factors that went into it, all of the times when it could have been turned around. There will be more of those.
There will be other opportunities, I'm sure, because they voted to continue until September. So,
but what needs to change? There needs to be a different strategy from the union leaders, and from the left, the organized labor movement in Birmingham. There are members in Unison working for the city council. There are Unite members driving buses and so on in Birmingham.
Yeah. And there's industries around Birmingham with workers who live in Birmingham who who want to live in a city that has swimming pools and libraries and services and council tax that are low.
So if you want to fight demoralization and defeatism, just do something different.
Yeah. But as time goes on, it becomes more and more difficult.
Yes.
As I said, in the summer, the council wants to have a permanent operation separated from the strikers. So time is ticking here.
Yeah.
The clock is ticking, sorry.
The clock is ticking. Yes.
Yes.
The clock is ticking.
Anyway, if we can conclude on this, follow our video, liked it if you liked, comment if you didn't, and circulate it around as well.
Anyway.
And we'll be back with you shortly on other videos.
Yes. Okay.
All right. Bye.
Bye for now. Bye.